Welcome to the ADHD Agent. I'm Melissa Sanregret, and here I share the strategies, struggles, and successes of building a consistent, reliable real estate business with ADHD. I'd like to extend the warmest of welcomes to you. Thank you for tuning in. I wish I could say that this was an easy plan to execute, yet it has taken me years to get here. And that is largely due to my ability to procrastinate because I want to be perfect at everything I do the very first time I try it. Otherwise, the entire idea just goes in the trash. And so this brings me to my full disclaimer that as much as I have learned in the last 5 years and as much value as I hope to provide to you, I am still learning every day, and I intend to show up imperfectly and authentically for you every single episode. In fact, the last few weeks I have stalled getting these episodes out because I got sidelined trying to plan my perfect podcast background. I know exactly what I want it to look like, and I had convinced myself that in order to show up for you, I need the camera, the lights, the decor, when in reality, those things are not the most important part of the podcast. The content is. So here I am at my desk in my office, ready to rock. This podcast, true to its name, is geared towards providing real estate agents who have been diagnosed, are undiagnosed, or suspect they have ADHD, the opportunity to learn how your brain works, to define the frustrations that stem from building a business with ADHD, and more importantly, how to manage these frustrations that seem to prevent us from getting ahead. Well, a lot of it will apply to ADHD. Everyone is welcome here. I believe everyone will benefit from the topics I'm going to share, regardless of whether you're neurodivergent or not. I was diagnosed with ADHD in 2017 by a friend of mine who works in the medical field. We were out for dinner and I had just finished telling, 10 stories at once. Well, he sat there patiently. He then gently and politely asked if I had ever considered the possibility that I have ADHD. And up until this point, the thought had never crossed my mind. In fact, I had only ever considered ADHD affecting elementary school males. A quick visit to his office for an assessment a few days later confirmed that yes, I was almost textbook ADHD, and to be honest, I wasn't surprised. It's always been very hard for me to stay focused on any one task. I have incredible difficulty remembering short-term knowledge. I have always been a daydreamer. Despite being great at problem solving, I was terrible at math and numbers, yet an A+ student at language arts and creative writing. I have always been able to cram the last night before an exam and ace it. I have also always had a ton of energy. I am very outgoing and friendly, and I love to socialize and make new connections. I wish I could say that the diagnosis changed my life from that point on, but I actually forgot about it and didn't start taking it seriously until about 2022. At that point, I was 2 years into trying to build my real estate business, and I'm saying trying being the key word here because I was all over the place. That's when I started working with an ADHD coach. I then grew my business to 6 figures, and I found the experience so valuable that I became a coach myself. Now my goal is to share everything that I've learned, stuff that you can actually use in your business and personal life to help you find the success and balance that you're hoping for, and more importantly, avoid burnout. I am here to tell you that I hear you, I see you, you are not alone, and it also doesn't have to be this way. The desires of your heart, you are fully and completely capable of receiving and achieving. ADHDers are some of the most brilliant, creative minds on the planet and often end up in an entrepreneurial role because they are big picture thinkers. They multitask effortlessly, and they are excellent problem solvers. There are so many beautiful things to celebrate as someone with ADHD, and I intend to help you discover them as we go along. But first, in this episode, I am going to count down the top 7 symptoms of ADHD as it relates to agents. Let's start with number 7, impulsivity. This could manifest itself in a few ways, like buying a new car, lead gen system, or hot new coaching program second your first commission check hits your bank account without checking if you can actually afford it first. It could also be sending a fiery text to a lead or other agent if they make you mad without thinking it through. It can also be committing to a new appointment before you even check your calendar. In real estate, these little impulses add up quickly and end up costing time, energy, and money. Number 6, distraction. This one comes back to knowing exactly what we need to be doing. However, our brains are also informing us of all the other things we also want to get done at the same time. And because they all feel equally important to us, it is sometimes very difficult to decide which one to accomplish first. And so we often start all the tasks at once and rarely finish them all, if any, because we have now overwhelmed ourselves, and it's easier to pick up the phone and scroll away the evening than try to prioritize this monumental new task list we have all of a sudden just set for ourselves. Number 5 is emotional dysregulation. We tend to get excited and also angry very quickly. We feel our emotions intensely, and they can flood in and out of nowhere, derailing the entire day. Real estate is an emotional career, and for good reason. For most of our clients, this is one of the biggest transactions of their lives. Of course, it's emotional. While we signed up to help them manage their emotions, we often find ourselves managing everyone else's too. The other agent, the contractor, their dads, your partner, your kids, you name it, often forgetting to manage our own. You've also probably noticed that you feel the lows more intensely than most. Someone could say 200 amazing things about you, but one hint of a negative comment in your general direction, and that's it. You're a failure. You're quitting your job. You're moving to the forest. It feels like the end of the world. Bye-bye. This stems largely from our brain's difficulty with regulating emotion, and without the proper tools to reset your nervous system on the regular, it's very easy for things to go sideways. Number 4, perfection paralysis. I touched on this one at the beginning. It is a major roadblock and top reasons that keep us stuck. Just as I obsessed over the details that have prevented me from putting out this podcast, it is so common to let this happen in every area of our businesses. Over-editing a reel until we hate it and never post it. Rewriting your weekly client email because now that you've read it again, you don't think they'll find it relevant, despite it probably being so relevant. This all stems from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of letting others down, but more importantly, fear of letting ourselves down. We start our ideas and projects because we want them to be good, but we want them to be good right now, and because that is almost never how it goes, or we misjudged how many steps it will take to achieve that goal, the minute we sense it might not work, we will abandon it before giving it a real chance. This brings us to number 3, task jumping. Our beautiful ADHD brains were built to crave instant gratification. It wants the reward. It doesn't want to do all the boring little steps that it will take to get said reward. There is little to no reward in between setting a goal and achieving a goal. In fact, it can get pretty boring, and ADHD brains hate boring. Even sitting down to finish paperwork can sometimes feel like physical pain. And this is why we find ourselves doing literally everything but accomplishing goals we truly do want for ourselves. This creates a ton of frustration and often leads to feeling shame. Number 2, poor working memory. Have you ever been sitting at home enjoying a rare evening off when your client calls and says, "Hey, I'm outside that house you said you'd book yesterday," and then you remember they called you about a property while you were out and you said you'd book the appointment, and you got off the phone and completely forgot. Maybe you're driving home after a packed day and you notice your gas tank's almost empty. You mean to stop, but your favorite song just came on the radio and suddenly you're belting out the tunes and pulling into your driveway. The next morning, you're running late as usual, heading to showings, and now you're scrambling for a gas station with literally seconds to spare. Or how about this one? You host an open house, meet a potential new client, and have the most excellent conversation. You collect their info and then you lock the door and somehow completely forget that open house even happened, let alone follow up with that amazing guest. The ADHD brain struggles to hold on to short-term information, and for this reason, our business often suffers because it impacts volume, trust, and consistency. Without the proper systems in place, so much business opportunity has a tendency to fall through the cracks. And while we're on the topic of poor working memory, I just remembered, if you like this content and want to follow along, head over to the platform you're listening on right now, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I will be putting out a new one every Friday. And last, but certainly not least, one of the top symptoms that shows up in nearly every ADHD agent I talk to, and one you'll find me consistently returning to throughout this series, is time blindness. Are you someone who shows up right on time or a little late to appointments? You've got your whole day planned with a listing appointment in the morning and showings in the afternoon, but you forgot to factor in drive time. Now you're exactly 10 minutes behind, maybe less, if you only skip eating, going to the bathroom, or getting gas all day. Or perhaps you're the opposite. You show up extremely early to everything just in case. You're terrified of being late, so you end up sitting in your car for 25 minutes before every appointment. That's not exactly the best use of your time either. Time blindness means we don't feel time passing the way that others do. 5 minutes or 2 hours can feel the exact same. Because of that, it's really hard for us to accurately gauge how long something will take. For example, we might think that following up with our open house guests after the weekend only takes us 20 minutes, but in reality, it actually takes us 2 hours and we just haven't realized it. So we end up not getting near as much done in the day as we thought we would, stressing us out and putting us behind for the rest of the week. These are the top 7 symptoms. However, we also have difficulty managing finances, organizing our thoughts, cultivating healthy relationships, and celebrating anything about ourselves, including our big wins. Whew. When you look at it this way, it sounds like a lot, right? Well, it doesn't have to be, because luckily ADHD is one of the most treatable neurodivergent conditions. The world was not built to accommodate how our brains work, and while that is slowly beginning to change, we do not need to wait for them to catch up to us. But before we go any further, let's discuss what ADHD is. The most common question, especially these days as ADHD finally becomes more commonly recognized, is, isn't everyone a little ADHD? And the answer is this. Well, the traits of ADHD are more visible now due to the way our attention spans have been conditioned by social media and other dopamine-draining apps. And while yes, everyone can be forgetful or hyper sometimes, people with ADHD repeat the symptoms we just discussed over and over again every day, all the time. ADHD isn't just a deficit of attention and hyperactivity. It's a difference in how the brain regulates attention, motivation, and emotion. This is because the executive function system is impaired. Executive function originates in the frontal lobe and is responsible for important things like decision-making and time management. And in people with ADHD, this part of the brain is underactive. ADHD is also strongly linked to dopamine, a key neurotransmitter involved in motivation and reward. People with ADHD typically have fewer dopamine receptors in the prefrontal cortex, which means the dopamine that is released doesn't always make it to his destination. Now, before I lose you, I'm going to paint a mental picture. Right now, point your finger at the middle of your forehead. Just do it. I'm doing it too. This is your prefrontal cortex. Now, trace your finger back to the tip of your ear. Right under your finger, in the middle of your brain, is where dopamine is created. Now, imagine that line that you just drew is a roadway that delivers the dopamine to the front of your brain. In neurotypical brains, it looks like a paved freeway, a straight shot to its destination. As easy as it was to slide your your finger from point A to point B, that's how easy it should be for the dopamine to travel through the brain. But in people with ADHD, it looks more like a summer road full of construction, detours, and lane closures. For some, it's not even paved. It's a gravel path. The prefrontal cortex, and you can put your hand down now, relies on dopamine to decide what matters. So when it's not transmitted or received properly, tasks don't register as urgent or rewarding, even when we know their importance. ADHD expert Dr. Russell Barkley sums it up perfectly when he said, ADHD is not a disorder of not knowing what to do. It's a disorder of knowing exactly what you need to do, but being unable to do it. We know we can pay attention. Hello, hyperfocus. It's where we put that attention that we struggle with. My friends, it is time we learn how to start working with our brains to discover what it is that truly makes us tick and ways to finally push past the roadblocks that our lack of dopamine has set for us and find out what we are truly capable of. My request of you as we go along is this. Be kind to yourself. Allow yourself to be open to discovering new things about yourself that you've never thought of before. And give yourself permission to celebrate who you are and all of the fabulous things that you bring to the table. This is going to be so much fun. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.